The security camera footage showed everything. 3 men in expensive suits cornering Sarah Mitchell against the conference room wall, their faces twisted with contempt as they towered over her. What they didn't see was the shadow that appeared in the doorway behind them, a man whose quiet stance betrayed nothing of the storm about to break. If you want to see what happens when corporate predators meet a father who spent 15 years in the most elite special forces unit in the world, keep watching. And if this story of justice resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories of everyday heroes standing up against intimidation and corruption. My name is Jack Reeves. 43 years old. Retired Navy SEAL. Widower. Single father to a teenage daughter. And on that Tuesday morning, I was simply there to drop off my daughter's forgotten lunch before her internship presentation. I never intended to become part of a corporate war. The boardroom was on the 32nd floor of the Meridian Tower, all glass and steel and money. I'd been in enough hostile environments to recognize the tension in the air immediately. The receptionist had waved me through with barely a glance. Security in these places always focused on keeping people out, never considering what might happen inside. Sarah Mitchell was 38, brilliant, and the only female executive at Meridian Financial. I knew her only as my daughter Emma's mentor, the woman who had taken a shy 16-year-old under her wing for a summer internship program. Emma spoke about her with the kind of reverence teenagers rarely show adults. "Dad, she's changing everything there. They hate her for it." I didn't know then how literal that hatred was. The boardroom door was ajar when I approached, Emma's insulated lunch bag in hand. That's when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of intimidation. "The board meeting is in 30 minutes, Sarah. This is your last chance to withdraw your proposal." The voice was smooth, practiced, dripping with false concern. "We'd hate to see your career implode over such a misguided initiative." Another voice, deeper, with the casual cruelty of someone accustomed to getting his way. I paused, my hand on the door. 15 years in the SEALs teaches you to assess before engaging. Through the crack, I could see 3 men in tailored suits surrounding a woman in a navy blue blazer. Her back was literally against the wall, but her chin was raised, her posture defiant despite being physically cornered. "My diversity initiative is backed by 2 years of research and financial projections," Sarah's voice was steady, though I could hear the controlled tension. "Your opposition has nothing to do with the company's interests and everything to do with protecting your little boys' club." The tallest man, silver-haired, tanned, with the hard eyes of someone who viewed people as resources to be exploited, stepped closer to her. "Let me be clear, Mitchell. If you present this to the board, we'll make sure they hear about your personal issues. Single mother, struggling with childcare? Not exactly executive material, is it?" My blood went cold. I knew that threat. I'd heard variations of it since my wife died 3 years ago, leaving me to raise Emma alone. The implication that parenthood, especially single parenthood, somehow made you less capable, less committed. It was a special kind of cruelty, weaponizing someone's family against them. The third man, younger than the others but with the same predatory stance, placed his hand on the wall beside Sarah's head, leaning in. "We know about the anxiety medication, Sarah. How do you think the board will feel about that? About entrusting major decisions to someone who's unstable?" I'd seen enough. I pushed the door open fully, stepping into the room with the quiet control that had kept me alive in combat zones across the world. "Excuse me," I said, my voice deliberately calm. "I believe you gentlemen are out of line." They turned as one, startled by the interruption. I saw the quick assessment in their eyes, taking in my civilian clothes, my build, dismissing me as irrelevant. A mistake many had made before them. "This is a private meeting," the silver-haired man said, his tone suggesting I was something unpleasant he'd found on his shoe. "Security will escort you out." Sarah's eyes met mine, confusion giving way to recognition. "Jack? You're Emma's father, right?" I nodded, stepping further into the room. Emma forgot her lunch. But it seems I've interrupted something. The youngest of the three men moved toward me, hand outstretched as if to physically guide me from the room. This doesn't concern you. I suggest you leave the lunch and go. His hand never reached me. I didn't need to use any of the combat techniques ingrained in my muscle memory. I simply caught his wrist in mid-air, applying just enough pressure to make him understand the mistake he was making. Here's what's going to happen, I said, releasing his wrist and addressing all three men. You're going to step away from Ms. Mitchell. You're going to return to your offices. And you're going to reconsider the approach you've taken here today. The silver-haired man, clearly the leader, recovered his composure, his face hardening. Do you have any idea who I am? I'm Richard Hargrove, CFO of this company. I don't care if you're the President of the United States, I replied evenly. Intimidation is intimidation. Threats are threats. And three men cornering a woman alone in a room has a name that would look very bad in a police report. The atmosphere in the room shifted. I could see the calculations running behind Hargrove's eyes, the potential scandal, the witnesses, the security cameras that I'd noticed in each corner of the room. You're making a serious mistake, he said, but he took a step back. This company has resources you can't imagine. I smiled then, the kind of smile that had made enemies hesitate in dark places far from home. Mr. Hargrove, I've faced down terrorists who believed they were martyrs for their cause. Men who had nothing to lose. Do you really think corporate threats frighten me? The youngest man looked uncertain now, glancing between Hargrove and me. The third man, who had remained silent since my entrance, tugged at Hargrove's sleeve. Richard, the cameras, he muttered. This isn't worth it. Hargrove's jaw tightened, but he nodded curtly. We'll continue this discussion at the board meeting, Sarah. He turned to me, eyes cold. As for you, I don't know what you think you're doing, but interfering in corporate matters is never wise. I held his gaze steadily. Neither is threatening a single parent. Something I take personally. The three men filed out, their earlier confidence diminished but not extinguished. As the door closed behind them, Sarah let out a long breath, her shoulders dropping slightly. Thank you, she said, straightening her blazer. Though I'm not sure if you've helped or made things worse. I set Emma's lunch on the conference table. Those men were threatening to use your status as a single mother against you. To expose private medical information. That crosses lines that have nothing to do with business. Sarah ran a hand through her short dark hair, nodding. Welcome to Meridian Financial, where the old guard will do anything to maintain the status quo. She looked at me more carefully. Emma mentioned her father was military, but she didn't say you were. A SEAL, I finished. Retired 3 years ago after my wife died. Figured Emma needed at least one parent fully present. Understanding passed between us, the unspoken recognition of single parents doing their best in a world that often used their circumstances against them. My proposal is a comprehensive diversity initiative, Sarah explained, gathering papers from the table. It would change hiring practices, promotion pathways, parental leave policies. It would cost money initially but project increased profits within 18 months. She smiled grimly. It would also disrupt the network that's kept the same type of people in power here for decades. I nodded. And they're willing to fight dirty to stop it. They've been building a case against me for months. Scheduling meetings during school pickup times. Questioning my commitment when I take time off for my son's doctor appointments. Her voice was matter-of-fact, but I could hear the underlying strain. Today was just the first time they've been so explicit. I considered my next words carefully. Those security cameras, do they record audio? Sarah's eyes widened slightly. No, just video. Why? Because what just happened was workplace harassment, plain and simple. But without audio, it's your word against theirs about what was said. She nodded slowly. And 3 executives against 1 woman. I know how that usually goes. I checked my watch. You said the board meeting is in 30 minutes? 25 now, she confirmed. Why? Do you have your phone? Is it set to record? A slow smile spread across Sarah's face. I like how you think, Mr. Reeves. Jack, I corrected. And I'm just applying tactical thinking to a different kind of battlefield. For the next 20 minutes, we developed a strategy. Sarah would keep her phone recording in her pocket during the board meeting. If Hargrove and his allies tried to undermine her with personal attacks, she'd have evidence. I would wait outside, my presence a reminder of the earlier confrontation. They'll be more careful now, I warned. They know they're being watched. Sarah gathered her presentation materials with renewed confidence. Good. Careful is all I need. If they stick to legitimate business objections, I can handle those. It's the personal attacks that are designed to throw me off balance. As we prepared to leave the conference room, Sarah paused. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me. I thought about Emma, about the admiration in her voice when she spoke of her mentor. About my late wife, who had fought similar battles in her corporate career. My daughter looks up to you, I said simply. And I've seen what happens when good people stand by while others are targeted. In my experience, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. Sarah nodded, a new resolve in her stance. Well, I'm glad Emma's lunch was forgotten today. The board meeting was held in a larger conference room 2 floors up. I took a position in the waiting area outside, close enough to be visible through the glass walls but not intrusive. I could see Hargrove's face when he noticed me, the momentary flash of anger quickly masked by corporate polish. For the next hour, I watched a battle unfold behind soundproof glass. Sarah stood at the head of the table, presenting slides and data with confident gestures. I could see Hargrove and his allies exchanging glances, interrupting frequently. But whatever they had planned earlier had been modified. They kept their attacks focused on the proposal itself, not on Sarah personally. When the meeting ended, board members filed out with thoughtful expressions. Sarah was the last to emerge, her face carefully neutral until the others had dispersed. Well? I asked quietly. A smile broke through her professional mask. They approved a pilot program. 6-month trial of the initiative in 2 departments, with metrics for success clearly defined. She lowered her voice. Hargrove tried to subtly undermine me, questions about my bandwidth given my personal commitments, but the chairman shut him down. Apparently, his daughter recently became a single mother, and he didn't appreciate the implication. I felt a surge of satisfaction. Sometimes the universe aligns. Or sometimes the right person shows up at the right moment, Sarah countered. She hesitated, then added, Emma talks about you all the time, you know. How you rebuilt your life for her after her mother died. How you left a career you loved to be there for her. I hadn't expected that. In the complicated relationship between a father and teenage daughter, I often wondered what Emma really thought about the choices I'd made. I'm not perfect at it, I admitted. There are days I miss the structure, the purpose of my old life. But you found new purpose, Sarah said. That's what I admire. That's what Emma sees. She glanced at her watch. Speaking of Emma, she should be finishing her internship tasks soon. Would you like to wait for her? Maybe we could all grab coffee? I'd like to thank you properly for today. Something shifted in that moment, a connection forming that went beyond the events of the morning. 2 single parents who understood the battles each fought daily, the sacrifices made willingly for their children. I'd like that, I said. As we walked toward the elevator, I noticed Hargrove watching us from his office doorway, his expression unreadable. I met his gaze steadily, not in challenge but in recognition. The world was changing around men like him. The old ways of power and intimidation were losing their grip. Emma was surprised to find me still at Meridian when she finished her work, even more surprised to see me talking easily with her mentor. Her eyes narrowed with teenage suspicion. Dad? What are you still doing here? Did something happen? Sarah and I exchanged glances. Your dad came to your rescue, Sarah said, smiling. He brought your lunch when you forgot it. And ended up helping Ms. Mitchell with a situation, I added, keeping it vague. Emma looked between us, clearly sensing there was more to the story. What kind of situation? The kind where having someone who isn't afraid to stand up for what's right makes all the difference, Sarah said. Your dad is quite impressive, Emma. My daughter's expression softened, a mix of curiosity and pride. Yeah, he kind of is. She linked her arm through mine in a rare public display of affection. Even if he is overprotective sometimes. Occupational hazard, I said, squeezing her hand. Once a protector, always a protector. As we left the building together, father, daughter, and the woman who had unexpectedly connected our lives in a new way, I reflected on how quickly life could change course. I had entered that building as just a dad delivering a forgotten lunch. I was leaving as something more, a reminder that sometimes, standing up for others is its own reward. The corporate predators had tried a boardroom ambush. They never knew a retired SEAL single dad was watching. And they certainly never expected that their attempt to intimidate one woman would lead to the beginning of real change, not just in their company policies, but in the connections between three people who understood what it meant to face life's challenges with courage and integrity. Sometimes the most important battles aren't fought on foreign soil or with weapons. Sometimes they're fought in boardrooms and offices, with words and principles as the only armor. And sometimes, the most meaningful victories aren't the ones that make headlines, but the ones that change individual lives for the better. If you've ever stood up for someone when it wasn't easy, if you've ever been the unexpected ally in someone else's fight, or if you've ever needed someone to stand beside you when you faced intimidation, please hit that like button and subscribe. Because these are the stories that remind us of our shared humanity, and the difference one person can make when they refuse to look away from injustice. This is Jack Reeves, retired Navy SEAL, single dad, and now, it seems, reluctant corporate watchdog. And this is just the beginning of